Hey everyone, it's LS, and this is going to be another patch rundown. This is patch 7.11. I glossed over it briefly. Not too sure exactly on Kindred, but we'll talk about that in a second, and I'll just give my first impressions on it. I think that there would probably need to be a little bit more dissection of what the changes do mean for Kindred and what sort of an impact it can have, and then maybe I can make a video for that in the future, but without pausing any longer, let's go into it, because it does look like it is finally a big patch, which I think can change a lot of stuff. So first up is Rek'Sai. This is one of the big change champions alongside Kindred and Malzahar. Health growth stat, she ends up losing a little bit of HP at level 18 since she loses 5 a level, so it's not the end of the world, but it's definitely going to be noticeable. Fury of the Xerxai. 25 for all attacks and unborrowed abilities, and max borrowed health regeneration 20 to 190 at levels 1 through 18 over 3 seconds. And this has changed from the previous one, so that's a little bit interesting. But Q Queen's Wrath, base damage down at later ranks ratio doubled. So I guess if Rek'Sai just goes for the Titanic Hydra, and maybe this also enables further warrior enchant type itemization, I think that this definitely plays into this change. I'm not sure if just Titanic and some other item would be enough if you want to still go Cinderhulk, but I think this definitely plays into the Titanic Hydra with the warrior enchant version of Rek'Sai's itemization. So I think that that's nice. Borrowed Q Prey Seeker, 0.4 bonus attack damage is an additional to the 0.7 ability power ratio. You know what that means? That means Gunblade. No, I'm kidding. But damage type magic to physical. That is, I think, actually, it's sort of a nerf because champions generally tend to have lower MR, right, than they have armor. But anyways, I don't think that matters so much at the end of the day. But the problem is that Rek'Sai is never really going to be building any sort of armor penetration. So, obviously having the physical is not going to help out that much. But it's not the it's not the end of the world. Burrow W, unburrow. Primary target is still knocked up. Others are now knocked back. So base damage 40 to 200 to 50 to 110. So losing a ton of damage actually right there. The displacement 1 second knock up on the primary target, 250 ring knockback to other enemies. So that's sort of a nice little change right there. So gets a little bit more utility. Immunity duration 10 to 8 seconds to 10 seconds at all ranks. So it's a little bit of a nerf there. Stop and smell the rose roots. Rek'Sai can interact with plants by attacking them while burrowed. So that's a little bit interesting. That now, you can get the blasting plants without having to unburrow. Definitely changes, blasting plants, honeycombs, whatever. Definitely going to be nice. Furious Bite now has base damage and scales off bonus AD instead of total AD. Damage no longer scales linearly with Fury, but full Fury cast still deal double damage as true damage. So 80 to 120% total attack damage to 50 to 90 plus 0.85 bonus attack damage. So again, if you play into the warrior enchantment with the Titanic Hydra, then if you go into the AD version of Rek'Sai, then obviously these changes are more tunneled and directed at trying to make Rek'Sai go into that path. And I think that's something that's really interesting because truthfully, a physical damage jungler outside of like Graves and Lee Sin, being reliable and consistent has been lacking, I think, for a little while now, because everyone knows I hate Olaf. And then outside of Olaf, you have Kha'Zix, but I think that Kha'Zix is a pretty bad champion. So I like these changes to Rek'Sai, and it definitely feels like Riot is changing her to be, more of an assassin or bruiser type jungler, which I think is really nice. Burrowed E-Tunnel. Tunnel creation and re-entry cooldowns both reduced at later ranks, so 26 to 14 scaling. Previously it was 18 at rank 5, and re-entry cooldown 10 to 6 seconds, now 10 to 2 seconds. So I don't want to say that this is going to be a novelty change. I do feel like there's going to be a way to make use of this inside of team fights, but a lot of people are probably envisioning Rek'Sai just, blinking around the map like a ping pong ball inside of like Baron or Dragon fights. I feel like that's going to be extremely rare. What I do think that this opens up, though, is the possibility for Rek'Sai to commit to engages from flanks with a little bit more safety, and there's a lot more creativity that can come from this, given the super short cooldown now on the rank 5. And obviously the tunnel network, being able to make more tunnels later on is definitely going to help out, because to my knowledge, Rek'Sai has now lost the ability to teleport and thus has lost the ability to be a pseudo split pusher. New are Void Rush, Rek'Sai Marks Champion. She damages and can dash to a marked target, dealing damage based off their missing health. Rek'Sai passively marks enemy champion. She damages prey for 5 seconds. Void Rush Rek'Sai targets a prey marked enemy, burrowing after 0.3 second cast, 35 second cast time before emerging from the ground and leaping at her target after an additional 0.75 seconds. Rek'Sai is unstoppable during both the cast and the leap. Damage 100, 200, 400, plus 1.6 bonus attack damage. So again, if you're going Titanic Hydra with the Warrior enchantment, this definitely plays right into it, or like Black Cleaver. I guess I didn't mention that earlier, but that's definitely going to be another item that Rek'Sai might like to get her hands on. Plus 20, 25, 30% of the target's missing health. So again, it's more of an assassination tool. It has a pretty nice base damage, and I think that the bonus attack damage ratio is really nice. Cooldown 100 to 60 second scaling, and the range is 1500. So I actually really like this. I feel like this is interesting. The only worry that I have from it, though, is exactly how long can Rek'Sai sustain inside of the fights when she's going to have to build that AD ratio, type style. In which case, you might even wonder that, well, wouldn't Kha'Zix basically have, more reliable damage and more ways of getting in and getting out because he has his leap reset, and then he's not committing as hard as Rek'Sai. But if Rek'Sai can get the kill, I guess the difference between Rek'Sai and Kha'Zix in that regard would be that Rek'Sai doesn't care about isolation, doesn't really care if the enemy is even protected by teammates to a certain degree, because the ultimate is unstoppable during leap and cast, and it deals a lot of damage. So definitely an assassination tool. Like that the tunnel is still kept intact. This is one of the mechanics that Rek'Sai uses to basically blitz out other junglers, just constantly moving across the map, and tunnel networks are something that higher level players can really make use of. So I really like the Rek'Sai changes. I just don't know if the numbers and the current way that the itemizations are and the meta are going to enable her to really flourish, but not entirely sure. Basically, if I think about this, I can't see why Rek'Sai would be picked with these changes, even though I like them. If I'm thinking about it from a competitive standpoint and not a solo queue standpoint, I still feel like Graves is gonna beat her. I feel like she's just a different version of Kha'Zix. She is a more mobile version of Kha'Zix with a little bit less utility, I guess, on the assassination with her R. But I think that her R is ultimately going to just be used as a finisher, and then the Unburrow Rek'Sai will still play the same mechanic as a utility physical damage champion. So, burrowing in and then going for the knock-up with the flash knock-up. So flash is still going to be a really important summoner spell on her. I think that as is, it might add for some more diversity, because right now jungle is getting pretty stale, and already in competitive we're seeing tons of jungler bans constantly coming out, and so in that regard Rek'Sai could actually be potent. I think in solo queue though, these changes definitely play into the solo queue nature. Rek'Sai's in solo queue are not going to be using super advanced tunnel networks, and they're not going to be using the ultimate as a pseudo split push because ARAM mid, and so I think that that's pretty good. So now Kindred, let's talk about her now. Passive attacks increase Kindred's attack range and amplify their abilities. So attack damage growth stat, she gets 0.526, so effectively a longsword at level 18 added to her. Updated passive Mark of the Kindred. Kindred's basic attack no longer 0% of their target's current health is damage based on passive stacks. Kindred's basic attacks on Mountain Dread gain 75 range at 4 stacks plus 25 range every 4 stacks thereafter. So realistically in a competitive game, maybe you have between 8 and 12. So I guess effectively, she gets an extra 100, 125, and in some rare cases, I guess 150 range. I don't think that she'll ever really get too much more beyond that. In a solo queue perspective, this is obviously, I think, going to be really nice. The new addition to the amplification, Q, Dance of Arrows, bonus attack speed increased by an additional 5% per stack. So she can basically get a recurve bow in the later stages of the game in competitive, and obviously she'll surely have that inside of solo queue. No longer increases base damage, okay? W Wolf's Frenzy, current health damage increased by an additional 0.5 per stack, so basically 4% current health damage is the way that I'm thinking of it in competitive, anywhere from 4% to 6%, I guess, and then obviously on the upper end I can see it going up to like 8 or 9, but I don't ever see it going above that inside of competitive. So, you know, there is that. So I think that's a really nice change, but we'll get to the skills in a second. E-Mounting Dread, missing health damage increased by an additional 0.5 per stack. So that's nice as well, and basically the same thing as Wolf's Frenzy. So Q, Dance of Arrows, grants attack speed on cast. Now grants 10% attack speed for 4 seconds on cast, plus an additional 5% per mark of the Kindred stack. So again, she can probably get like 50, 60, 65, 70% attack speed for 4 seconds on the cast of Dance of Arrows. And if you have CDR in there, then this is obviously going to be a spammable feature that enables Kindred to itemize differently than before. And in that regard, I think that it can become very interesting, you know, opening up a lot of different build paths for her. Removed mark damage. Mark of the Kindred stacks no longer increase Dance of Arrows range. So ratio, 0.2 total attack damage to 0.65. Bonus AD, dash speed 400 to 500. So the dash speed being buffed is actually really nice. Wolf's Frenzy deals additional damage based on current enemy health. Kindred can choose where to cast Wolf's Frenzy. So the cast range previously was, I guess, self-cast anywhere within 500 range, including over walls. That's actually really, really big. Current health damage. Wolf deals an additional 1.5% of the target's current health as damage, plus an additional 0.5 per mark of the Kindred stack. Ratio 0.4, total attack damage to 0.2, bonus attack damage, damage type physical to magic. That's one of the big buffs. This is a really, really big buff. Some people might see this as not a buff because, you know, maybe Kindred gets Last Whisper, or it takes away from Kindred being able to go Yumu's Ghostblade. It takes away from Kindred being able to what else? Yumu's Ghostblade. Takes away from Kindred going like Black Cleaver. It's obviously going to hurt that a little bit. Obviously, there's the other lethality items like Edge of Night and Duskblade of Drakthar, but I think this is actually in the majority of cases going to be a buff with how Kindred is. So I think this is actually really, really interesting for Wolf's Frenzy. But anyways, E-Mounting Dread deals additional damage based on enemy missing health and crits low health enemies. So, okay, 8%. Oh, the other thing here is the jungle camps, right? Jungle camps, this is really big. But anyways, deals additional damage based on missing enemy health and crits low health enemies. So it gets a Pantheon effect, basically. Missing health damage, 8% of targets missing health plus an additional 0.5 per mark of the Kindred stack. So, again, this can go up to 16, 18, in gross cases, I guess 20%. 20% of the, you know, targets missing health. That's really, really, really big. Max health damage no longer deals 5% of the target's maximum health as damage. Base damage, however, got nerfed, so it's missing 60. Ratio 0.2 total attack damage to 0.8 bonus attack damage. And again, with all these other changes and with Kindred getting the free attack speed, no longer needs to itemize those attack speed items, and thus she's able to itemize more into physical damage items that, you know, will obviously bolster her bonus attack damage. Missile speed is also up 1600 to 2000. I think that's a really nice change. Jaws of Death. Wolf's attack can critically strike targets below 15% health for 50% bonus damage. Threshold increased by 0.5% per 1% critical strike chance, up to 65% health at 100% crit. So I think this is also really interesting because it plays into Kindred potentially being able to itemize crit. The only thing with that, though, that I think is weird is that maybe that just plays into her going Static Shiv, or it plays into Phantom Dancer or something being a jungle path item. So you go like Warrior Enchant into maybe like Static Shiv, or Warrior Enchant into Phantom Dancer like later down the road. I don't think that you're going to go those second items, but I think maybe third or fourth item, the crit thing, but I'm not entirely sure on that. I would have to think more about itemization path for Kindred now with all these changes. All in all, I think I like the changes. I think that with the buffs that Kindred received previously, getting the free 10 AD now also just on basic auto attacks at level 18, I think that helps a lot because you're basically getting a longsword, so you're getting 350 gold worth of value almost, because it's not exactly a longsword, but I think that the changes are all really nice, and it can definitely help Kindred potentially come back, but we'll have to see, you know, how she fits in and everything. I think that as it currently stands, I think Kindred would probably fit in better than Rek'Sai with the way that the current jungle is played in competitive. I think in solo queue, Kindred would be infinitely more obnoxious than Rek'Sai, just because the stacks would go completely uncontrolled, especially at lower MMRs. And so for that, I think that I like the Kindred changes a lot more than Rek'Sai. But that's pretty much it for now. I have to see exactly how she deals with the meta junglers at particular instances. The way that the mid meta operates right now and the way that top meta is, though, Kindred definitely has a lot of benefit, I think, with synergy in mid and top. So she does have that going for her. Malzahar, Q, E, and R deal more damage. W spawns Voidlings based on Malzahar's spell cast. Voidlings are less threatening early. So he's getting another little rework, and this rework, I think, actually makes him go all the way back to the first version of Malzahar, not the super first version, but I mean post rework, where Malzahar would max E or he would max Q, and the W max would come later, or they'd put 1 or 2 points in W and then max E and then max Q, and then max W last. So I think that's what these changes play into. So anyways, updated W Void Swarm 40 mana to 40, 45, 50, 55, 60 mana, but don't think that you're really going to have to worry about that, because I don't think that W is going to be maxed first. Remove charges. Malzahar no longer gains a charge every 20, 19, 18, 17, 16 seconds. New stacks. Malzahar gains a stack of Gathering Swarm when he casts another ability max 2. Active, Malzahar summons a Voidling plus an additional Voidling per stack of Gathering Swarm, max 3 per cast. So as long as you're still being intelligent and everything, you're still going to be able to get these Voidlings out. Multiplication, Voidlings no longer able to spawn additional Voidlings, but I don't think that really matters anymore. Cast range on them, however, being reduced is definitely going to be noticeable. But as long as you still do them the traditional way, you summon the Voidlings and then you ER the target, and then you break the tether and then you Q to enable the silence, I think everything's going to be completely fine. And yeah, the Voidling stats go back. They change up a little bit again, and I think that this plays into Malzahar being able to be potentially picked, or he will be able to be picked again in mid lane. He's still going to be able to be picked in bottom lane, and then obviously for super cheesy people, he might even still be able to be picked in top lane. So there's all of that going for him. Don't think that he's able to be played in jungle, though. Although I would have to read more about the Voidling changes. But anyways, jungle, I mean, that's SOFM, and he hasn't been played in jungle in about a year anyway, so almost a year, so he does have that. So anyways, Call of the Void, cast time 0.5 seconds to 0.25 seconds. I think that's really nice. Post-cast delay before firing 0 to 0.4 seconds. That's interesting. Ratio 0.7 ability power to 0.8, so I really like that he gets the extra little bit of damage. Malzahar is not going to have too much ability power. It's not like he goes death cap, but the thing about him is that he is a champion that doesn't slow down. So he is a 6-item champion, and so any sort of bolster to his E and his Q is obviously it's gonna be very noticeable the longer that the game goes on. And I do like that this plays more into the mid lane Malzahar yet again, but support Malzahar is still gonna like it. Any buffs are going to be still pretty good because he's still going to go for the Morellonomicon, Rylai's Leandri's, and that's going to be his basic, AP at the time. So you can calculate in, he gets 0.2 ability power basically total on his QE combo now. Our Nethergrass, base damage 125 to 375 plus 1.15 ability power flat magic damage. Null zone damage, however, got gutted 25 to 45%. Plus 7.5% per 100 ability power to 10, 15, 20 plus 2.5% ability power. So some people are probably looking at this and wondering, what exactly is going on. So the AoE got hurt, the pool, which I don't think that's going to matter too much. I don't think that the pool is going to matter. I think that the 1-to-1 ability power ratio and the flat damage is absolutely bonkers. And it's going to be bonkers in most cases for the target that Malzahar is going to be ulting. But definitely the pool will be noticeable in some situations, mostly inside of narrow corridors, team fights like that. But I think that the change is pretty okay, unless there's something that I'm not getting here. Unless there's a change I'm just not getting here. I think that it's maybe a nerf at rank 1. Maybe it's a nerf at rank 1. Yeah, I think it's a nerf at rank 1, right? It's probably a nerf at rank 1, but then it's increased later on once you get items in rank 2. That's what I'm assuming. God, I can't do it. I can't do it off the top of my head. I'm so sorry. Thinking about support Malzahar and stuff and thinking about what that means, but I think that definitely late game Malzahar is further enabled by this, so It's not the end of the world because you're not ever using it for the pool in the later stages, using it mostly to kill the target immediately. So Ari, less damage on W and R, more damage on E. So Foxfire loses 0.1 ability power. Charm gains 0.1 ability power, so these two things cancel each other out, and then R Spirit Rush gets hit a little bit. So Ari just gets a very slight nerf, and now it's required that she hit the charm in order to make up for the damage lost on Foxfire. So it's not the end of the world. Caitlyn, Runon's Hurricane Bolt's no longer stack headshot. That's a really, really, really big change for Caitlyn. Base attack speed is also down. Level bonus attack speed 10 to 15%. So I think that's sort of interesting. Base attack speed at level, wait, what? 0.625? Yeah, okay, but what? Wait, what am I not getting here? What am I not getting? Oh, okay. All right. Well, I mean, this is gonna affect her, but this isn't why you pick Caitlyn. You don't pick Caitlyn because you're like, oh man, I have to make use of that Runon's Hurricane. You pick Caitlyn because her, her range, her zoning potential. Later on in the game when you do have Runons, even though the Hurricane Bolts are no longer gonna stack headshot, I do still see her being picked as a top tier ADC because the traps are just way too valuable. The way that she can rotate around the map and begin to unlock turrets, is super, super valuable. And she has a lot of synergy with a lot of the current supports in the meta, so I don't think this is going to be the end of Caitlyn by any means. She's not going to be going away for a little while, but definitely some champions will, obviously like this buff. Dr. Mundo, attack damage per level and W damage per second up, so Dr. Mundo gets basically a longsword at level 18 on his auto attack. That doesn't matter. Burning Agony now goes up by 5 damage per rank, so per second. This is meant to make up for the Sunfire changes, but this is sort of laughable. I think that having the longsword is basically irrelevant, and then the Burning Agony change I think is negligible. This isn't what makes Mundo bad, so it doesn't really matter. Lee Sin, high latency players can ward hop, W safeguard, cast now can be buffered when placing wards, allowing Lee Sin to quickly place and hop to wards on high latency environments. Now it's going to be even more funny when you see the Lee Sin pause. Lucian, Q mana cost up at later ranks. I think that this is primarily aimed at mid Lucian and not ADC Lucian. 50 to 70 scaling now becomes 50 to 90 scaling, so mid Lucian is really going to feel the pain right here, where it's going to be an extra 10 per cast. So unless you have blue buff, if you cast this an extra 5 times, you're going to be missing 50 more mana, and that can definitely be difficult to juggle depending on how you're playing the lane. Can't ever really just neglect these small mana changes. Maybe this can be fixed with runes and masteries, though. It definitely seems like it could be, so it might not be something that's completely the end of the world. It just might come at the cost of a little bit of defense or a little bit more offense if you want to go at it from the rune and mastery angle. Malphite, that's great. Maokai, passive heal base down, health scaling up, sapling speed, and AP scaling down, brush sapling duration increased with bonus health. And okay, this is like so ghetto. Cooldown 30 to 20 seconds at levels 1.9.15 to 30 to 20 seconds at level 1.6.11. Base healing 130 at max to 65%. Healing goes up to 10.5% to 13%. Okay, so stat magic. Well, that's actually really that's really neat. Stat magic. E sapling toss ratio 2% targets maximum health per 1 ability power. 1% of targets maximum health per 1 ability power. Sapling move speed 425 plus 2.5 per Maokai's level. To 400 changed based on Maokai's boots. Boots is speed, most upgraded boots, okay. Brush sapling damage, 100% on detonation, 2 ticks for 50% each, 6% 2 ticks, okay. Total damage unchanged, brush sapling duration 30, 40, it scales up to 70, 30 plus 2.5% of Maokai's bonus max health. So that can end up being a buff in the end, the brushling. I mean, these changes are virtually negligible except for the passive stat magic. So it doesn't change anything. I think that Maokai is pretty trash. In hindsight, I wish that they didn't rework him. Yeah, it just feels really bad. I feel like he's too funneled into being like a support now, because up in top lane, I mean, he's still Maokai, but he just feels ghetto. And I don't know, like these gimmicky sapling toss things don't work up in top lane. They work in bottom lane mostly because of the zoning dynamic, and jungle Maokai is just absolutely terrible. So that's, I mean, he's not absolutely terrible, but he's terrible and competitive, so it doesn't really matter to me. Renekton changes are reverted. W cooldown decrease, shields maximum health increase. So this is actually really nice for Sion, especially because Sion Scion gets inadvertently helped by the changes that came to tank items and stuff, just because of the way that he deals damage and the way that he interacts and stuff and the way that he itemizes. And he is a tank, but I know it sounds weird to say that a tank got helped because other tanks got hurt, but truthfully he did. I like that this change that comes because of the Sunfire Cape. I think that the Mundo one is ridiculous, and I think the Malphite one is also ridiculous, so it doesn't really matter. Syndra W area of effect reduced. This is a really weird change. Obviously, this means that Syndra can't bully the same amount that she could before. And, you know, good Syndras aren't really going to be affected by this, but bad Syndras are definitely going to feel it. It seems like a very random change, and I'm almost sort of wondering, like, why do it? But whatever. Yasuo Q stacks expire faster. Q Steel Tempest 10 to 6 seconds now, so you can't hold it as long. After having talked with a few people, they think that this doesn't even matter at all, and you know, truthfully, I don't think that it really matters at all either, unless you're playing a mind game where like Yasuo is like 800 range away from someone, or 600 range away, and you guys are just clicking back and forth, and then Yasuo throws the cool Q. That's the only thing that matters for, because it's a prolonged cycle, like a mind game. I can't see this ever actually having an impact at really high level of play. Zach, E warning indicator shows up earlier. Zach's voice isn't squeaky as okay, that's great. E elastic slingshot appears 0.75 seconds before Zach lands to 1 second before Zach lands. So I guess there's a little bit more counterplay. Mid-season, oh yeah, this changed. This doesn't matter. This is what makes Zach broken. 40 to 120 to 30 to 70. The 50 damage missing isn't what makes that good. What makes that good is his ultimate, his engage range, and the I attack a champion, I attack a minion, and then I clap them together. Like, it's basically, he could probably lose all of his damage on this fucking thing, and it would still be completely fine. His utility is just absolutely surreal. Yeah. So anyways, items, Abyssal Mask, so they got a new icon. I really like that they did that. Banshee's Veil, cost increased, magic resistance increased. Some champions are really going to like this. I like this because it plays more into the League of Tanks, where champions have more durability, and also the changes that happened a little while ago about a lot of champions getting passive MR now per level and stuff. I think that for the 300 gold increase, I think it's probably definitely worth it. And it doesn't really matter, because basically when you go late game anyway, you want as much stats as you can get. And so people that are getting Banshee's Veil aren't going to be like, oh man, I'm losing out because of that 300 gold timing or something. There's only a few champions, I think, right now that rush it first item. This will definitely hurt them, because it means they need to stay for 2 more waves, or they need to get good and get a kill. So our Karina advice. But at the end of the day, I think that this is a pretty good change, and I really like it. Blade of the Ruin King, lifesteal decreased 15 to 12%, not the end of the world, but I guess they're viewing it as Blade is being quite obnoxious in a lot of matchups right now, but I don't think this is going to knock Blade out of the running by any means. But I think it's a nice change to keep it in line. Guardian Angel icon now updated. I actually really like that Guardian Angel. It reminds me of Lightsworn from Yu-Gi-Oh! All right. Anyways, I don't know why I said that. Ninja Tabi, basic attack damage reduction decreased. Ninja Tabi shouldn't be the go-to item to into a ton of physical damage. In addition to tankiness, basic attacks give it baseline effect. Okay, so Graves loves this. Kindred loves this. Every single ADC, like everyone loves this. But primarily auto attack reliant, like attack speed, etc. Champions, they're all gonna love this. Obviously, right? Basic attack damage reduction, but. You know what I mean. This is a huge buff for Graves. Probably going to be a buff for Kindred as well. And obviously it's a buff for like Jace up in top lane or something. It's a buff for Lucian in mid lane if he goes up against someone that tries to get Ninja Tabi. So in that regard, I think this is also super, super nice. So there's that. Nomad's Medallion. Combined cost decrease also affects Talisman and Ascension Eye of the Oasis. Okay, so... that's fine. Okay, 25 gold, again, not the end of the world. This is sort of just like a novelty change. Doesn't really matter. Scoreboard, minion, kill, tracking. Playing against a champion creates a lot of smaller units. Okay, this is actually really nice. Okay, I really like that they're making it, more obvious. Crowd control text with the addition of crowd control name displayed above. Okay, crowd control doesn't need to be included in floating combating text anymore. Okay, normals and rank, custom games, lobby invitations, rotating game mode. Don't care. League client update. Okay, Dragonfist Lee Sin. Okay, don't care. Okay, Chemtech Trendmere. If anyone ever wonders, like, you know, if Riot ever has patches that they release where they just don't care about money, just fucking show them patch 7.11. What the hell is this? Like, what is this? I don't even know, like, what to make of this. This is like, what? Anyways, alright. Fortunately, I think this was overall a really good patch. Mostly I'm excited for Malzahar and Kindred. Rek'Sai, I mean, is interesting, but we'll have to see. Ahri could give two shits about. Caitlyn doesn't really change her too much, but obviously other ADCs will benefit. Mundo's a joke. Lee Sin doesn't matter. You sucked anyway. Lucian, this I think affects mid lane Lucian the most. Malphite's a joke. Maokai, don't care. Syndra, I think the change is sort of whatever. Sion, I really like the buff. Zac, I mean, that's laughable. That's not the problem with Zac right now. I hope that Zac continues to go 100% pick ban and LCK, or just never get played in general. That's what I'm looking forward to. Yasuo changes don't matter, and I really like the Banshee's Veil change as well. So all in all, good patch. So good job, Riot.